Well, hello, folks. I am, as you can see, not BMR. This show takes us down a lot of trails other than Bigfoot, beyond Dogman, beyond the UFOs. And tonight, it has landed us in the arms of a beautiful blonde. I don't know what it is with me and the blondes, but every time I get lately, I've gotten on here, I'm sitting next to a gorgeous blonde. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying there's mysterious forces at work here. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to talk to Melissa Adair, the Bigfoot Chick, and we've known each other for, well, I'm sure longer than she would have liked, but we are we are gonna get her up here and see what kind of trouble I can cause, because I am without adult supervision tonight, and we all know how that goes. So fade the old music out, or turn it completely off. We'll do that too, and get her up here. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I am doing well, and yourself.
You know what? I'm all right. I'm all right. Um, it's like you said earlier, was off air. You said I can't complain, but it wouldn't matter because nobody's gonna listen anyway. So,
Pretty much, pretty much. Story of my life.
so Rob will not be here tonight. Life gets in the way, folks. But everything's gonna be fine. So, we'll just lope right along, and I'll happily sub for him. But I told him, I said, look, I tried to get me a co-host. I tried to get my adult supervision, my babysitter, but I think they and turning me loose with Melissa is dangerous anyway, because you know we we uh we tend to cause a little trouble.
We do. We're those kids that sit in the back, for sure.
But it has been a while. It has been since last year at the conference in Alabama since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Are you
Yeah,
guys heading to the conference this year?
yeah, we are going. We're going back, and you're going to be there, right?
I would love to come. It's on my calendar. I am hoping to make it and bring my dad because he sure enjoys it. He really
Man,
enjoyed
I tell you
meeting
what,
all of
your
you,
dad,
and yeah,
your dad is a freaking hoot.
yeah, he's a funny guy for sure. Um, yeah, I'm looking. I haven't heard what all the lineups are. I saw that Adam Davies is going to be
Uh-huh.
presenting. Are you guys presenting? I guess.
Yes, we are.
Okay, awesome,
Yes, we
very
are.
good. Yeah, I haven't heard who all's on the list.
I can't remember. I've been touching base with her, with Anita, and she told. Well, you know me. I'm a man. I don't listen to half of what you say anyway. So you know, she told me the lineup, but dadgum if I can remember what it was. But
Right, right. Well,
because
I bet there'll be a promotional poster coming out soon, and
oh yeah, yeah,
we'll all know. We'll
yeah.
all know.
She's
But yeah,
excited about this one. She really is. I I I hope I'm not telling things I shouldn't, but I think she's going to change the location,
oh,
but
okay.
I'm not real sure. Um, but now, because last year was quite a an adventure.
It was. We had two events going on at the same time.
Yeah.
An interesting combination of events, I might add.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
often that you hear Bigfoot encrypted lectures with full blown gospel going off in the background.
Yeah. Did I don't know if I told you what I did the day of the conference, the morning of the conference, because I was supposed to be emceeing and everything, and I didn't know where we were going to be set up at. I thought it was going to be in that main auditorium downstairs, right? So
As
I
did
be
I.
so I bebop in there, right?
uh,
And they're in a walking prayer session or something. I can't remember what they called it, but and my keen observation skills didn't pick up on that when I walked in, and I walked over to the soundboard because I was trying to find the guy who was running the sound so we could go back, you know. And I start talking to them, and they're like, "I don't know, we got this thing for the next couple of hours." And I was like, "Well, our first speaker starts in like 30 minutes. We got to work this out. What's going on, guys?" Come to find out, we were upstairs.
Whoops.
Yeah.
No, that would have been fun. I don't know. I kind of wish that we would have merged the two on stage. That might have been that would have been a first for sure.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. That would have been interesting.
For sure. For sure.
But what have you been up to? Well, I tell you what, I know who you are, what you do, but I bet there's a lot of people because we got a lot of new viewers. We got a lot of new viewers since you were on here last time.
Welcome, new viewers.
And right.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell them about yourself, what you do?
Okay, where to begin?
It's always, I found it that it's always easiest to begin at the beginning.
Yes. I'm assuming you're wanting me to tell about my Bigfoot interest, not just like what I do professionally, family, all that, or do you want the full compilation of all of it?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you just tell us whatever you want to tell us?
Okay, I'll just tell you, but we'll start at the very beginning.
Because I'm not going to sit here and drag things out of you.
Okay.
What do you think I am, the host of this show or something?
I was born a tomboy, and I grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is a very touristy spot now. But when I was growing up, it was just a little piece of rock sticking out of the forest. And so I grew up with all boys in the neighborhood, and we would build forts in the woods and play war games and bury the flag, all that. I mean, capture the flag, we buried it, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, I'll bet you were burying things all right if I know you.
And so, yeah, the woods was my playground. So I really enjoyed that. And as I was growing up, my dad was always interested in the subject of Bigfoot, and he had some books about Bigfoot. And if there were any programs on TV about Bigfoot, I'd watch them with him. And we're a musical family, so he sang songs about Bigfoot, taught me songs about Bigfoot, and the like. And so so this was my background and my upbringing. When we lost my mom as an adult, that was in 2004. My dad came to me and said, I just want you to know that my interest in Bigfoot is still very much alive and well, and I've taken it to the interwebs, which was the thing now. And so he had found the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and was all excited about following their pursuits. He had watched all of the shows that had Matt Moneymaker on it, and was just real excited to discover that they were doing an expedition in North Georgia, which is near where we live. And so he said, they're coming. I really think that's cool. And I said, well, you should totally go. And he was kind of like, this. And I said, well, if you don't want to go by yourself, I'll totally go with you. So I went with him, and he took my brother also because that happened to fall on my brother's birthday weekend. And my brother is a total skeptic, doesn't believe in any of it. But my dad and I are, we're believers. We think it's all really cool. So we ended up ditching my brother and going off and having a great time. We met a lot of really, really cool people that we're still friends with, that we still communicate with through social media. And whenever we get a chance, we still meet up with them around a campfire and do a little squatching. So some really good people, really, really great friends. And so after my first expedition, I was just hooked. I was so into it. It was really awesome. So I went on a couple of more expeditions. And by my third expedition, I had an experience where I heard this man beast howl that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Some other people in the course of that exchange, saw some eye shine. I had third generation night vision, and I saw like a log go up and over the tallest guy's head. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff that happened that night. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's something to this. This is not just made up stuff. There's something happening here, something that I can't explain. So I was like all in at that point. That was the coolest thing I had ever experienced. And so from that point on, I became an investigator for that organization for a while, and so did my husband. And we helped put on some expeditions and did that for a while. And then later, uh, through the years, as my interest continued in the pursuit of Bigfoot, I had some friends that came with me on an expedition, and one of them, Angela, continued to kind of go out and um, uh, with do some research with me in the woods, and we were starting to film stuff because this is when everything was brand new. Like Facebook was brand new, YouTube was brand new. It was all just a thing. It was still being discovered by the masses, and so we had started to make a few videos, and um, she was from Oklahoma. So we ended up going on an expedition out in Oklahoma, which was a really long drive for us, but it was really fun. We met some really fun people. And from that, we went on a couple of other expeditions in, in that area, Southeast Oklahoma, Texas area. And we did that several times. And in the course of all that, we met a guy that had seen some of our videos. And he said, you guys you should, you know, brand yourself and put some stuff out there. He was a marketing brand, or fancied himself a marketing branding guy. And so anyway, as a kind of a joke, he made a little Facebook cover photo of she and I wearing black leather jackets back to back, and put it to superimpose that picture on like a dark, scary looking forest background. And then on the side of it wrote, "Coming fall 2012 Bigfoot Chick." And I put it up um, on my wall, on my page, and literally within, you know 24 hours, anybody in Bigfoot that had any sort of podcast, blog talk, TV show, they were all calling us for an interview. So it was crazy. So we started doing interview after interview after interview, and that's how the Bigfoot Chicks were born. And so from that, I got more involved, and we did some more projects. We ended up doing some projects that were in front of the camera, some reality TV kind of things, sizzle reels, this, that, and the other. It got a little crazy. And so we did all that. And Angela got to where she fell away from it, and we rebranded ourselves Squatch Unlimited. We did that for a few years, did a lot of these video pursuits, and um, that kind of fell away, and I left that group and just had formed my own page, which is Bigfoot Chick Adventures. And I took a little sabbatical for about 3 or 4 years from it when I started my own business, and and have just in the last year started to get back into it, and love it. Love every chance I get to go back in the woods, um, and found a new love too that helps me get even deeper in the woods, which is off-roading. So during COVID, during 2020, when we were all kind of stuffed up, I escaped and learned how to go off-roading. So I did that. So now that I've had a couple of years of off-roading experience, I like combining all my hobbies to chase after the Bigfoot Sasquatch mystery, which brings us to here we are today. Still meeting incredible people such as yourself, and just enjoying getting to know um, people all over the country that have had these experiences, or just have had um, fun researching it and talking to other people about their experiences, and still seeking to have the experience for themselves.
You
How was
know,
that?
Perfect. Perfect. You know, it's funny when you start talking about basically your home away from home is out in the woods. You know, because I mean, let's face it, people look at you and go, diva. Yeah.
I get a
And you're
lot of
just
people that ask me if I own horses.
you
What's that about? Do I look like
know,
somebody that owns horses?
yeah, actually,
I enjoy horses, and I've been carried multiple times. I can't say that I ride, but I've been carried multiple times.
you've
So
been carried. I like
I've been
that.
carried multiple times. Besides, those horses that know the trail backwards and forwards and blindfolded. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are the horses that I've been carried on. So
you've been on
yeah.
some trail rides. That's what you're saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. There ain't nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I would love to learn to ride, to really ride, but I don't, I don't, I don't have horses. I don't really know anybody that has horses, but I think it's because I wear a lot of cowboy hats. That's probably why people ask me. But it's all right.
That may have something to
Have
do with it.
horses. Yeah, yeah.
That may have something to
I'm
do
not
with it.
wearing one today, but I'm wearing my dude hat today, my little Buster Brown hat. But yeah, I often wear a cowboy hat, so that's probably why.
Yeah, I could. Well, and you got a little southern in you, you know.
Well,
So,
I am from Georgia, born and
yep,
raised.
yep. You know, when y'all were going, when y'all come down to Oklahoma and you did Oklahoma, Texas, that area. Did y'all have any good activity down there when you was down
Um, I I heard I did hear like a howl one night, but it was not definitive. I can't say that for any with
there?
any
Right,
certainty that it was
right.
something um to get excited about. But it did stand out that night. But there were some people that were with us who had experiences in that area. We just nothing really exciting, nothing too exciting happened the times that I was there.
Well, since we're hopefully both going to be in Alabama again, um, maybe if you're able to, and maybe we can work it out because you know that area up there, and I don't. And I would love to get some boots on the ground up there and work something new. So,
Absolutely. I'd be there in a heartbeat. You just say when.
well, like I said, we're both going to be up there during, for the conference. So maybe we can work something out. We can take a day trip out and go romp around a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome.
And if you ever make it down in this neck of the woods, I'll take you up there where I go.
Oh, absolutely. There's some good stuff. There's some good reports that have come out of that area, and
Oh,
I haven't been there enough. So
I'll tell
I'd
you
love to
what,
visit.
you ought to see we pulled handprints a couple of trips back.
Really,
Oh
that's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I've read a number of reports out of that area where you are, and they are amazing. So I would love to research that area.
yeah. We had it happen two nights in a row. Um, there's a cemetery up there that I enjoy going to, and the trucks we had them parked down at the bottom because you got to walk up the hill through the woods to go to the cemetery.
Mhm.
And we came back down the first night. We came back down as a group, and we had handprints all over the trucks, and we identified three different sets of handprints and documented them and everything. So that was exciting. And then we went back to camp, and we the next night I actually did a live show from the cemetery. I was up there for 2 hours by myself up there, and my phone went dead. Well, we had a safety team down at the bottom. Of course, they come running up there, make sure I was okay, pull me out, whatever. And when they got up there and we found each other, we were gone for about 30 minutes. We came back down. There was a bunch of more handprints on the truck.
Wow.
And not only that, they had opened I'm not going to say what it was. I
It's something.
believe I know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't, I didn't see them.
Mm-hmm.
So but something with small hands that are gorilla like not only left their handprints all over the truck, but they left also. My favorite print that I've got is a hand and a forearm,
Hmm.
and you can actually see the hair rubbed on the where it rubbed on the truck.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I could show it to you here pretty quick. Um, but they also got in. They opened a bear-proof Yeti cooler. Didn't take any drinks out of it or anything, but scooped water out, and there was pieces of ice sitting on the tailgate. That's how fresh it was
Oh
when
wow.
we came back down.
Yeah, that's that's so cool. So how far that was within your camp or on the edge of your camp? How did you have that set up?
We were actually 4 miles from our camp when this happened. That's where the cemetery is.
Okay.
But um, then we went on another trip not too long ago, and we found a handprint, big handprint on. We had been going behind this guy's vehicle, Nick, from Sasquatch Radio. We'd been going behind his vehicle and relieving ourselves, and then we were. I forget what we were doing, but he walked back there and he goes, "Did any of you leave a big greasy handprint on the top of my truck?" Like,
Oh.
no. So we all walked
Wow.
over there, and it was a big greasy handprint right on the top of his truck, and or right close to the top, and right beside where you could tell where we had been leaving our little pee spots, there was a wet spot probably 3 foot in diameter. It
Wow.
looked like this critter had leaned against his truck, watched us at the campfire, and took a leak right there.
Marking his territory. That's his.
But
That's crazy.
we've had some crazy stuff
So
happening out there.
did you get any like good audio recordings or anything?
We didn't really have any audio that trip. I pulled audio out of there before, over the course of the years,
Hmm.
but it and there's been some great pictures coming out of there. Um, uh, oh, dadgummit, what was his name? Oh crap, I can't believe I just Dotson. Robert Dotson used to research that area back when he was alive and stuff, and then it kind of went under the radar. Nobody was really doing anything. D. Doss jumped out there, and he was researching that area. And he pulled some more good stuff out of there. And then I got involved, and I'm more of an audio guy. You know, I don't. I'm not one to take a lot of pictures or run a lot of video because I suck as a cameraman. But it we've gotten all kinds of freaking evidence out of there. These handprints are the latest to come out of there. And as far as physical evidence, it's right up there. I mean, Red River Cryptids pulled a hair sample, and I haven't heard anything. They sent it off. I haven't heard anything back. And we pulled some footprints. We didn't cast them, but we got documented them and everything.
Mm.
So, and we've had all kinds of crazy stuff happen. But the problem is we have to deal so much with the paranormal up there too. It's a weird energy going on up there, and so it's sometimes it's really hard to figure out what we're dealing with as far as are they these critters running around, or is it you know something else running around, but yeah, let me pull that picture up for you and I'll show you real quick. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think that's interesting that you're talking about the weird energy that's up there. Because I really enjoyed JT Hudson's uh presentation that he made at the Alabama conference last year, because he was the way he I love the way he described it, that Bigfoot, alien, paranormal, it's just all facets of the same diamond, which I thought was profound. Like that's awesome. And I recently I've watched some of those missing 411 documentaries that have come out,
Right.
and I've watched the one, the Bigfoot alien connection one, and just so interesting, just really, really interesting what they've been able to capture and document um, from these people in different parts of the country, and just how things happen and how things go down and how people describe the way they feel, um, when they've been in these encounters and stuff. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of lines blurring across all these things, and
Mm.
I I mean, there's a lot of people that listen to our show feel that it's all connected. Um, I really
And I'm
don't.
inclined to agree. When I very first started into the Bigfoot thing, I was very, they're just flesh and blood creatures. They're,
Right,
you know, because that's all my research had really led me to, you know what I'm
right,
saying? But as I've done more and more in research and read more and talked to more people, watched more documentaries, this, that, and the other, my mind is a lot more open to the possibility of it being something else, And so
right,
and so when people ask me what I think it is, all I can say for 100% assurity is that all I can tell you is I know that I don't know.
oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and so
That's a very good statement.
yeah, I know that I don't know what it is, and so I think that you can't. I don't think anybody can make a definitive statement saying they know for
Right,
sure what it is, even if they've had a class A sighting of something.
right.
I don't think that we have enough information to really understand. Um, you know,
And we don't. I mean, Jason is famous for saying we can't say what they are because we don't even know what they aren't.
yeah.
And I'm very, very open to the possibility of there being more to them than just, physical beings.
Hmm.
But say I'm in the same shoes you were. That's not where my evidence is leading me.
Hmm.
Okay. And if I ever have one of these Bigfoot paranormal experiences, I'm going to be the first one waving my woo flag over here. I really will. But I just haven't had that. According to some, I have, but I still think I'm dealing with it. I still think there's a couple of different phenomena going on at the and at the same time for some reason. I don't know why either these creatures are attracted to this paranormal stuff or the paranormal stuff is attracted to these creatures. I don't know, but that's what I'm going down because I don't want to make a jump and 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 say they have all these special powers and everything um without me experiencing it.
Hmm.
I'm just not going to jump on there. But I'm not fully on the physical train either because I don't know.
Cautiously open.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go. Anyway,
cautiously
let
open.
me put, and mostly everybody's seen this that's in here, but the what's
Oh, look at
interesting
that.
about it,
That's definitely a handprint.
yeah, and what's interesting about there's a couple things interesting about this. If you zoom in on it, and I can't right now, well, I guess I could, but you can see the dermal ridges on the fingerprints,
Hmm.
and they're not, from what I'm told,
Hmm.
primates fingerprints are not like humans, and these are not human fingerprints.
Right.
And this mark down here, let me get over here. Hang on a second. This right here, which looks to be a forearm, you can see where that's hair,
Yeah.
thick
Looks
hair,
like it. Yeah.
you know. And let me move over here, and you can see the dermal ridges on the fingerprints. See how they're straight across?
Yeah. That's weird. Huh.
And if you,
And you took
this,
these off what, a truck? They were on your truck?
yeah, they're on my truck. This is on my truck. And the handprint itself is less than 6 inches. Okay, it's a small hand, but it is smaller than anybody in our group. But the thing about it is, we couldn't recreate the
Recreate, yeah.
spread from the fingers to the thumb. It was like it's at a weird angle and offset too far down for a human.
Hmm.
And we got to comparing them to different handprints of different, you know, humans and everything. And the closest thing we could find to match them were gorillas. So yeah,
That's wild.
yes, it's
And this
damn
is
sure interesting.
northeast Texas?
No, that's southern Oklahoma.
Oh, southern Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah, right on the Red River. So
Yeah.
it's up Brown Springs, Oklahoma is where it's at.
Yeah, that's
But
a good place. Lots of stories, lots of spooky, for sure.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, Ryan Edwards. You met him up there at Alabama.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Dresses
Yes.
like the old cowboy style. I love it. He's so cool. Um, Shout out to Ryan too. He actually spoke at the San Antonio conference, and he told me, he goes, I was mad because you missed my presentation. He goes, but you were in the hospital. How in the hell can I be mad at you? So because we were late getting there and stuff, because we didn't get back to the hotel room until 6:30 in the morning. But anyway, um, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, he's very knowledgeable in animals and all this kind of stuff, cryptozoology, and I mean he's got his book out there, and it's like an encyclopedia of cryptids. I love his book, but he was looking at him, and that's the first thing he said when he saw the handprints or the dermal ridges. He goes, "Those are not human; those are primate."
Hmm.
So,
They sure look
I'm like,
it. Hmm.
yeah, I'm like, that's cool. It's nice. It was
Hmm.
cool to hear somebody else say that without even being prompted. He was just looking at the picture and goes, "Oh, look at this." So
Yeah, I went to a Bigfoot symposium in Oklahoma, Stillwell. I think it was one of the first years they did it, and somebody had like 3 tables full of casts they pulled out of that area. Lots of different kinds of footprints, and then knuckle prints and partial hand prints and stuff. It was crazy how much stuff they pulled out of there. So
yeah,
there's something out there in Oklahoma for sure. Something crazy.
and we were talking about the whole UFO and paranormal and thing, all and Bigfoot all being kind of encompassed, right?
Hmm.
And Anella Godfrey raises a great point, and I have said this myself, and I'm totally agree with you. She says, so aliens abduct humans. I'm sure they abduct Sasquatch too. It's not that far of a stretch for aliens to be interested in our reactions to those creatures,
Hmm.
you know. And because how many times have you heard, well, I saw Bigfoot getting of a UFO, or I saw a UFO right after I saw Bigfoot, or right before, or whatever.
Hmm.
And I've been ringing that bell, Nella, for a long time, and I'm glad somebody finally agrees with me. If they abduct us, why wouldn't they abduct them? They're a more fascinating creature than we are. I mean, hell, they'll cut up a cow to look at it. Why won't they
Right.
abduct a Bigfoot? You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it stands to reason. Fair game. So, especially if it's a species that interests them in some way,
Yeah, yeah.
or they have maybe some use for. I don't know. So interesting for
So
sure. But it,
let me ask you this: Do you or have you got any? Um, what's the latest reports you've been getting in your area? Anything?
I recently followed up on a report that was 2 years old from an area that's about 30 minutes north of me. And it was with a little boy. He would have been about 4 at the time.
Wow.
And so they live really out. They live in one of these uh, residential areas. I mean, it's like a neighborhood, but the smallest lots are at least 3 acres, and the
Gotcha.
larger lots are like 8 or 9 acres. That they're plots of land with fairly large homes on them. And I made if you visit the Bigfoot Chick page, you'll see the video that the results from that research trip that I did to kind of interview the little boy and his mom. and his brothers, and just to kind of see. But it was very interesting because they they have this land. Their backyard is completely wooded, and then it goes up on a rise. There's two creeks that run through the back, and then you walk up on a rise. And when you get on the top of that rise, you can see in a 360 all around the houses out, in the distance. So it's a place where you could perch and watch and kind of see what was happening um, in that area. And on the section of road where their house was, they had a neighbor on either side of them, but of course they were spaced out a little ways. But they were the only family on that street, as far as I could tell, that had any young children. And they had six young children, and so I think the oldest was only like about 10. So they had six young children, and they had livestock. They had some chickens that they kept out there next to the children's play area. And so these children were also homeschooled. So they were home a lot and, outside playing a lot. And so, what we read, or what I've read in Bigfoot reports would seem to indicate I've read of multiple cases where an alleged Bigfoot or Sasquatch creature was on the edge of the forest, kind of watching children play. And so, you know, she indicated that of the chickens that they had there were two unexplained chicken deaths where the chickens appeared to be dead by broken neck,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't scattered and disemboweled and all broken up pieces like a predator had gotten after them. They were just, their neck was broken and they were laid neatly on the ground. So, which, it doesn't jive with a predator getting after them. And so, but what, those were two kind of odd things. But the little boy, for a period of a few weeks, I think it went on into like a month, because I think that's why she reached out to me, because they started talking about it, and then they knew that this subject interested me. So they reached out to me to come kind of explore on their land. But anyway, the little boy and his brothers, there were four young boys, all in a pretty large room. They had two sets of bunk beds, and he was four and he slept on the bottom bunk, and he was closest to the window. And they had these large windows, and at the time when I went to visit them, there were curtains over the windows, but at the time I don't think they really had any neighbors yet, and there was nobody around, so there were no windows, or there were no curtains on the windows. They were completely unblocked. And there was something that would look in. Well, he said there were two faces that would look in at him and scare him, and he would get up and go wake up his mom. And so this went on like nightly, or almost every night, for a period of a month or maybe more than a month. And so it was obviously concerning because he was too old to be waking up like this in the middle of the night on the regular. And uh, they they had discussed it with some other family members, and there was a family member that had had a similar experience on a different property about the same age, and said that she kind of was getting the vibe that maybe this fell under, maybe it's a Bigfoot experience or that kind of thing. So that's why they reached out to me. And so the window where he was, we went outside, and I took my son with me on this research trip. So again, if you want to go look on the Bigfoot Chick Adventures page, you can see this. You can see the pictures that I posted, and you can see the video that I made, just kind of recapping the trip. But the my son is 6'1", and he reached his hand. He was standing on the ground under the window and reached his hand all the way up to the bottom part of the window where the boy indicated the faces were. And so these faces were a good 7+ feet tall, you know, um, based on what he's saying. And of course, this is a child and a child's account, so you have to keep that in mind. But it was, it just seemed to be him for some reason, that it was waking up and it was bothering him, and it was consistent, and it went on for so long. And so, after a time, it seemed to get better and not bother him so much. So, um, I found it interesting. It was really, really, really interesting how their land was laid out, how they had the problem with the livestock. And then again, I had asked, I said, have you ever noticed any unusual sounds, back here when you guys hang out in the back at night or whatever, anything? And she said, well, my husband is a biologist. Um,
Oh,
and so he can explain away, everything. He can tell you
right.
what it is or whatever. So she goes, so there's that. But yeah, there have been things we've heard that we're not quite sure what it was, So, but she didn't really elaborate for me. So I don't want to lead people. I just want them to tell me what they heard. I don't want to, did it sound like this
Exactly.
or did it sound like that? And so, uh, she didn't really elaborate. So I don't know for sure, but she kind of her I kind of felt like her opinion of the matter was that maybe he didn't have the answer. Maybe it was something else other than what had been the explanation that had been given for these sounds. So anyway, that's one of the most recent reports that I have followed up on. And again, that happened about 2 years ago, but only about 30 or 40 minutes from me, but kind of out in the boonies. And it's interesting to me too, these sightings that have happened. I had another sighting um, that was a little bit south of me, um, that happened on the outskirts of a park, a public park here that bordered some rural land, and that was one of the first um, one of the first cases so close to home that I researched.
Right.
And it was and this happened a while ago, and I had Angela with me, and we went and met the guy, and he was I think some sort of a developer or something, and upstanding guy, was I think he played minor league baseball at one time, and he had a coaching business on the side, baseball coaching. So he was a very upstanding member of the community, and he was very concerned that his name would be linked with this craziness, right? But he had an experience, and he wanted our opinion on it. So we met him. Very nice guy. He's still a Facebook friend of mine, and uh, anyway, he was walking in the park. And as he was walking into this section of the trail, it's a paved trail that wraps around. As he was walking into the section of this trail, he had earphones in. He had a call going on one ear and music going on the other. And he had just wrapped up his call, and he wanted to pull his other earbud out so that he could hear the water as he was crossing over the water. And so as he did that, he turned his head as he was pulling his earbud out. And as he did, he said he saw what he thought was a very tall, very muscular black man walking naked on like the sandbar on the other side. And he said in two strides he crossed this distance that was considerable, and then he bent at the waist and went through the brush, and he saw the brush, move as something was going through it and walk off. And then he was just kind of standing there with his mouth open going, what did I just witness?
Right.
What was that? And so we went back and looked at it, and there were some 15-inch impressions. They weren't like perfect footprints or
Right.
anything, but they were consistent through that area back there. They weren't castable, they weren't the pretty perfect things that you would hope for when you're looking for that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
um,
Unfortunately, that's most of the time.
yes,
That's what you run into.
right. But from where I stood. I had him stand where he was when he saw it, and I went and stood where he said the creature entered, and so I stood right at the entryway of kind of this little opening in the brush where the creature had bent at the waist and gone over. And so he said, that's where I saw its butt cheek, and then it just kind of went down in there. And so I'm 5'8", and I was standing, so I'm fairly tall for a woman. So I was standing there, and he said, where your head is where its butt was. So that's how. So its weight, or its waist, or its butt was
Right.
about 5'8" off the ground, right? So the rest of him was pretty tall. So uh, again, it just kind of it happened very fast, like these encounters seem to, and they crossed very quickly. So he didn't get you know a lot of details, and again, I didn't want to lead him. I just like, tell me what you saw. But he described it as a very large, very muscular, black male. But as it bent over, he could see that it was considerably hairy. So I'm just like, I can't believe you saw that here. I was just like floored because there was a huge residential area all around this park. But where he saw it is where the park backed up to a more rural area, going into a more rural county. So it's um, you know, just kind of mind blowing that it was just right here. It's just like it's near civilization. It's so close to civilization.
Well,
So
and that's what I've found strange here lately. Probably over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, is we've been hearing a lot more of those type of encounters.
mm-hmm.
In it's like they're encroaching closer.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think it's just because we're building out so much. I mean,
Yeah, the urban sprawl.
we're building houses in their freaking living room. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be some adjustment time there for, I would think, any animal, even these, the even with their intelligent level. I think there's some adjustment there when all the construction starts and it initially runs them off. They're kind of coming back. Maybe they're coming back going, "What the hell happened to my house?"
Yeah.
you know, I had the kiddie pool right here. What are y'all doing?
Could be.
But I mean, it does seem that we're seeing an uptick in, well, people are calling it suburban Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
and with good reason. I think so.
Well, I mean, it's right here, right? Not where you would expect to see
Right.
it.
Right.
You expect to drive out a ways and be in more rural forests and stuff. But
I mean,
yeah.
Jason took an encounter almost downtown Dallas, just on the outskirts.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it's just crazy. But I mean, but the common factor that I see is it's always there. It's always close to a good waterway, and of course,
Yeah,
I think it's
this was by a
general.
waterway, by a river. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they use them like highways, and that's general consensus pretty much across the board. But this seems to be evidence of that. I think,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and honestly, I think some of these critters are going, "What the hell y'all doing in my house?" This is my neighborhood, and y'all come over here.
Right.
But it's
Um, yeah, it's crazy. Well, there's a lot of coyotes in that area too. And I know that I've talked to several people and seen a couple of presentations where it's been commented that there might be some sort of symbiotic relationship between alleged Bigfoot and coyotes. And we have, like I said, a lot of coyotes in that area. Um, and so I don't know if that has something to do with it or not, but we did try to sneak back into that park at night because it's closed at night. We did try to sneak back into that park a couple of times to do a little research, um, and had that kind of creepy feeling, like something was around, um, but didn't have any kind of experience that we could really document other than creepy feeling.
Now, this is something that I haven't gotten really to sit down and talk to you about. If I don't think we did the first time you were on the show, and I don't think we really breached it at the conference. But we're fixing to take a little 5-minute break. But I want to and I don't want you to say nothing. I'm going to tell you what the question is because I'm not going to ambush you. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about it.
Let me prepare my answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want you. I don't want to blow you away here.
Okay.
I want your take on Dogman.
Okay. I thought it was going to be a hard question.
Oh,
that was the easy one.
I got that one warmed up and ready for you.
I'm prepared.
Because honestly, we've been seeing an uptick in those encounters too. And that you talk about lines blurring.
Mhm.
And I've had a close up encounter with one. They're not the same critter. I'm telling y'all, people. But anyway, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Y'all don't go anywhere because I haven't heard her take on this. And
I don't know
I'm
how
looking forward to
insightful it will be, but I do know a bit about that subject matter. Not a bit. I've read a bit, I should say. So I know what I've read.
Well, we're going to get into it, and y'all don't run off. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and as soon as I can find the button. But me and buttons, man, I just don't get along. I prefer snaps and zippers. But
Let's just cut it off right there.
we'll see y'all in
You're
5
about to go
minutes.
down a rabbit hole. So
You're right. We'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. Two-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. 1 minute. 1 minute. And we're back. So, Dogman, and I went through and I was going through the comments, and I highlighted a few of them that we questions and comments we can get to after we get your take on Dogman.
Dogman. Okay. Here's what I know. I've read a bit about the beast of Gouvedin, and that was this creature that was, captured. It was going around killing things in France, and they captured it. And I think it made its way over here in the swamps or something, and it got let loose or something like that. Or maybe I'm mixing this up with a movie. But anyway, something like that happened. And anyway, the beast of Gouvedin was described as like a dog's head, big snarling teeth, very fast, had a long tail, kind of dog-like. Then there is the famous photo of the Beast of Seven Shoes.
Yes.
And that photo to me is fairly compelling that it's not a Sasquatch.
But I don't think that's a Dogman.
You don't think that's a Dogman?
I don't think that's a Dogman.
Okay. It's been pointed to or alleged that's supposedly a Dogman creature.
Right.
But I know that I don't know.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But I don't think that's a picture of an alleged Sasquatch. I think it's something else.
I think now that I know it's not what I saw. Okay. And that's about all I can say. But to me, that picture looks more like what people describe when they talk about a gugway.
Okay.
And gugways are reportedly nasty freaking critters. They are perpetually in a bad mood. They're kind of like you. But
I'm not in a bad mood. I'm a golden ray of sunshine. Always.
Wait for it, ladies and gentlemen. What's coming next is her to go, bless your heart. As y'all, if y'all haven't noticed, we have a little bit of a rapport because we like to pick on each other.
We worship the quicksand that I walk on.
But to me, that's just my opinion. I mean, but the thing about it is, it's like Sasquatch. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of different. I hate the word variant. I know people throw that around a lot. But that's like, saying us and Asians and African Americans are variants of human. That because the way I see it is all these different races. Is I guess the most comfortable thing I can say of different Sasquatch and stuff like that. I think that's what they are. They're just as different as humans are around the globe. But
I was going to say I have read a couple of people's dogman encounters, because I was curious to know how they would be different from the alleged Sasquatch encounters that
Right.
I had read. And so in some of them, they definitely described it with a long snout,
Mm-hmm.
a tail, pointed ears, the canine doggy teeth,
Yep.
just sharp teeth, that kind of thing, which doesn't match the description of most Sasquatch sightings.
Right.
And so the thing that struck me in some of the accounts that I read was a feeling of unease or evil in their encounters with these creatures, which I found really interesting. The other thing is, I think that this jives with the skinwalker legend. The skinwalkers were supposed to be or alleged to be some sort of creature with like a dog-like head and upright walking body, so that could shapeshift. So when you put all that together, again, I know that I don't know, but I don't think it's a relative of the Sasquatch. I'm more inclined to think that that could be, dare I say, a multidimensional creature. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and a lot of people are on board with that train of thought, that school of thought, and I'm not, because I keep trying to make the math add up.
I just know that I don't know. I'm not claiming that's what they are.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm saying, based on how different the sightings and accounts were that I read from the sightings and accounts of alleged Sasquatch sightings, I could see how these are completely different kind of creatures. I mean, what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
These may not even be flesh and bone creatures, or not. Maybe if they are, they don't operate the same way ours do. So
right.
I don't.
Well, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Sure.
And that's the whole thing. We have to consider that. We can't just be closed off about it. And it's like I said earlier, I just haven't seen any evidence to point towards that. Everything I've seen points towards a physical creature. Mm-hmm. But if I see one come out of a portal or whatever, mm-hmm. or shapeshift, hey, but skinwalkers are different though. Skinwalkers, that's you got to do some pretty horrible crap to become a skinwalker.
True.
Cannibalizing loved ones and all kinds. I mean, it just gets nasty. But which they very. I mean, honestly, what I saw, I can't say if it was a quote unquote dog man or if it was a dead gum werewolf. When it was in the 80s when I saw it, hell, the term dog man really didn't even exist then. All I knew was to call it a werewolf, Mm-hmm. But I do think let's see if I can cover my bases here. I do think it's two different entities. How's that?
Okay.
Now whether there's flesh and blood or otherwise, I don't know yet. I'm like you. I know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've been up close personally.
I was going to say, I've only ever read about encounters. I've never witnessed anything that I could say. Well, I got into that category. But I remember you sharing. I remember you sharing your experience with me, and that's pretty wild.
Well,
so I'm not.
You said you have an experience. I don't recommend it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really something that I think I'd handle well, but yeah, like I said, it just seems the nature of these sightings seems so vastly different than the nature of the Sasquatch sightings. So,
yeah,
they're much more uncomfortable.
yeah.
So,
And I don't know how much of that is just because of
how they look, a little more menacing,
yes,
maybe. I don't know.
because
Yeah.
let's be honest, they are absolutely more terrifying and mind bending than a
Hmm.
Sasquatch is.
Yeah.
You know, because I know everybody says, well, Sasquatches they don't exist, blah blah blah. Then people want to call you crazy and nuts and everything because you saw a Sasquatch.
Hmm.
Throw a dog man into the mix and see what they tell you. They're going to have you
Hmm.
committed. But um,
And you
it's
saw yours in Texas, right? You were in
yeah,
Texas.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I've been talking to people and come to find out there was uh, me and my partner Keith was in fact was on the trip this last weekend and we were talking about this whole thing and we went through people that he'd talked to and people I'd talked to and figured out that there had been a half a dozen sightings of basically what I saw in the same area.
Hmm.
And so something is out there. Now, what it is, who the hell knows? But there's something going on for sure. Um, I want to let's get into some of these questions and comments here. Um, Anelia, Dadgummit Godfrey is, I'm going to call you Ann. You're killing me. Um, Tex, why do you think they use waterways to hide tracks, running water, less detection, or waterways have hideable foliage? I want to get your opinion on that, Melissa, first, because, ladies first.
Uh, well, waterways and like power cuts, kind of the path of least resistance. I think that any large creature would choose the path of least resistance if it felt safe enough and it didn't have to conceal itself. I think that would be the nature of any creature, really. Um, you know, kind of just goes without saying. And then, of course, it's water, and if you need to drink, it's there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think that's probably the main
mm-hmm.
draw,
Mm-hmm.
or the two reasons you put out there. I'm fully agreement with you. Let's see. Be kind says what's interesting about the 411 and the data, it overlaps with water, lakes, rivers, ponds, etc. If cryptids, aliens, and Sasquatch are also using these areas for any sort of reason, and Sasquatch are also using that is a very interesting overlap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, as far as what do you think about the whole 411? Do you think that it is
Oh,
a
it freaks me out. I love it though. I'm just like so into it. And I when you talk about the waterways and how they're connected, I always kind of go back to like Native American traditions and cultures, and they have when they start a lot of their rituals, they have everybody drink from the same bowl,
right?
because water is the thing that connects all of us, right? So maybe that is part of it, that we have to be connected on some basic level, to interact or share space or whatever,
Right.
however all that works. Because I don't know. But when you said that, that's what kind of the impression I had is, maybe that water is very connecting. That's what we all need it. We're all kind of created. It's all part of our makeup. So maybe that's why. Just a thought.
Right. And I think along those lines, um, either it doesn't matter if you're if you're taught, like when you get lost or you lose your way or whatever, to find a water source.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because eventually, if you follow a water source, be it a lake or especially a lake or a river, you're going to at some point run into other humans because I mean, look over the, you know, thousands and thousands of years. Where did humans put their encampments? Where do animals gather?
Right.
So
The
I
water
think
hole, the
right,
water cooler.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a good point, though. I know you were joking, but that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Right.
Where do even in an environment like that, where do we congregate?
Hmm. By
Around
water
the dadgum water cooler.
and food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what will you find around water? Food.
Hmm.
So I think even if you're not taught that and you don't know and you get lost, I think instinct takes over, and that's the first thing you want to find. So that that overlap with the disappearances in the water and everything, I think that may be what we're seeing there. That and then some things take a bad turn. Now I don't think there's any one thing responsible for all the 411. Okay, I think it's a multitude of things. I think it's people just wander off and they get lost and they shouldn't be in these areas in
Sure.
the first. Huh?
I mean, that hunted one was bizarre.
Oh
There
yeah,
was like there was like no. These men were like uh, accomplished and
right.
experienced hunters that had been doing it their whole lives in that section of wood.
Yeah.
They were gone without there was no nothing.
Yep.
Their guns, their ammo, everything was gone. They just vanished
Yeah.
with the trace.
And see, and I
That is
think
weird.
yeah, it is. And see those particular cases, I think there's something else involved. Okay.
Mhm.
And what's with the folded clothes being found and the shoes
Yeah,
being found put
that's
on top?
kind of creepy
We
too. That's
we
yeah.
found that we found that down in Brown Springs
Mm,
one time. Back in the brush, we found what looked to be a young or small female's basically whole outfit,
mm.
you know, and we're like, oh, what's going on here? But there's some pretty hinky human traffic back there too.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, yeah,
and I think that plays a part in it. And
could
that's what I'm saying.
totally.
But I do think cryptids play a part. I don't think they're probably the lion's share of the pie per se. But
Right. It's just that
I
usually there's something that's trackable. People
right,
don't usually just disappear without a single trace.
right,
And
right.
so the fact that a lot of these cases, especially in the documentary that they discuss, were, I mean, literally without a trace. I mean, there was just nothing to go on. I mean, that's just in today's world with all the science and technology we have, that is just mind blowing that they couldn't
Yeah.
find, nothing, no tire tracks, no nothing,
Yep.
nothing. That's just bizarre.
And two there's two cases that I recently heard about. I mean, they're old cases, but or older cases, but they both involved um, young children.
Mhm.
These children were found. I think one of them was weeks later, the other one was months later,
Mhm.
and they were found in areas that 15, 20 miles away in places where they at their age they obviously could not have gotten.
Right.
Um,
With no explained cause of death. That was a commonality with all of them.
right, they looked
The
like they
bodies
died
that
of
were
exposure,
recovered, there was no known cause of death determined.
and these two particular ones, what really stands out to me is when they got to them, they had only been dead like a couple of days,
Mhm.
and they had been missing for months.
Right.
Where do you put that?
I
You know,
Again, bizarre. It's just, and
it
it's one of
is.
those things where, when I, ever since I watched those documentaries, when I go out in the woods with my friends, I always I jokingly say when they go off to pee, I'm just like, this is the point of separation. This is when you don't return.
Yeah.
I'm like, take a friend, take a dog, take something, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of a joke, but funny, but not really. Because you're just like, what if he doesn't come back?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and as much as and you, like I said, you grew up the same way I did, roaming the damn woods,
Mhm.
and but and we didn't even know what a freaking emergency locator beacon was at that point,
Right.
Um, but now I've been looking at them, you know,
Mhm.
just better safe than sorry type thing,
Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
At least find my
Yeah.
body, you know.
Yeah. Well, and one of those hunters in one of those episodes actually was carrying one, and
Yeah.
they were able to follow his path that he walked. And, he was going to a cache. So, he's supposed to bend to the left and he'd bend
Yep.
to the right. And they said it was a well marked area. And at the time that he would have been there, the weather was fine. There was no reason for him to
And
veer
he
off
knew the
course.
area.
And he knew the area really well. And then I don't know, his stuff was found 12 miles from,
Yeah.
and that's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's like, how do you, how do you explain it?
It's like they get into a trance and they just, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
a lot of people, kind of what we've been talking about here lately is kind of talking about the Fae being involved, because that's what they did. They lured people into the woods and they were never seen again.
It does kind of seem like that, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, why like the particular case you're talking about, why would he why would he do what he did? That makes absolutely zero sense.
Well, and they were
None.
trying to chalk it up to like hypothermia and stuff because
Yeah.
they found his boots and his shoes and stuff. And
Hmm.
I mean, it could be, because the snowstorm did come in after he would have been out. Um, so it could be that. But then they found his belongings 12 miles from where they found the clothes. So he
Right.
would have walked barefooted for 12 miles in a snowstorm.
Right.
It just seems really unlikely. So,
And
and then
one
where
of the
they found
interesting,
the pack, it was overlooking the ranch. He was right by help, and
right.
so it was, yeah, really
And
crazy.
another thing is they never, and if you listen, from what I remember, they never talk about the shape of his feet. If it looked like he had been walking for that long in that kind of stuff.
Right.
I never heard that, which to me that would be a very telling thing. You
Well,
know.
but with that guy, I don't think they found the skeleton like later, way later, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't find his body in any kind of intact form.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll never know. But
Yeah.
that
It's been a long time, so I got to rewatch that now. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
Um.
yeah. I mean, it's just like you start watching it and you can't stop. It's like watching a bad
Yeah.
train wreck. You just have to keep watching.
Yeah.
You're like,
I know, right?
what's gonna happen next? So yeah, it was crazy. It kind of it disturbed me, but also like intrigued me in the same level. Like this is weird. So I do kind of when I go out in the woods now, I am a little more aware, and
Yeah.
because I used to be okay with kind of going off by myself. Now I kind of
Hmm.
think twice about it. So,
Yeah. I see. Me too. Until recently, really. I mean, and I think I still want to, but
mhm.
I don't. Um.
And when I say go off by myself, I just mean from the group a little ways to explore and stuff, but I'm out of sight of them.
Right.
So, not I don't recommend going out in the woods for anybody alone. But yeah, just being with a group and separating yourself. I I try to stay in eye shot with everybody
Yeah.
now. I
Right.
try not to go too far away.
Now this is really interesting, and Anne says uh, that there's a cave on her property. It looks well traveled, but she's too scared to go check. I may have to go pay a visit. That's what all
That's
I'm
pretty
saying.
cool. Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
cool. Something is using that thrill
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
Now this is uh I hate that this is what we were talking about a while ago. Shane Barber says they've been doing construction around here in my area and a lot of trees are gone. And recently I saw a Bigfoot standing in the small trees around looking around at the open site. It was very sad. And he's actually got a photo of it.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Shane, we got to have you on and talk about that and look at that. That sounds freaking awesome. But you're right. It's very sad. It reminds me of the Smokey the Bear stuff. And but that's a sad man. Don't bring me down like that. Um, this is interesting here. Glenn says, I'm waiting to hear reports of cryptids hanging out in abandoned buildings. I've already heard them. Not a lot, excuse me, but I have heard of like them being not, and don't even really have to be abandoned, them being caught in barns and stuff like that and running out. And, um, but, I don't, why wouldn't they use shelter if it was there?
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's
makes sense.
plausible. It makes sense. I mean, especially if it's not peopled, there's nobody around, and that's not really being used. It makes sense that, well, because wildlife does it in general. If you're up next to the woods and you've got abandoned houses, people find wildlife in these abandoned houses all the time. So it makes total sense.
Yeah, the stuff is okay. So we got a little update on Rob's deal here. He says, "Hi all. I can say that I've been at the hospital. My mom took a fall, broke her ankle, and has to stay overnight for observation. Has a concussion. Melissa rocks, and so do you guys and gals. Thanks for watching." So
I hope your mom
Rob,
feels better. Tell her to heal quickly.
yeah, prayers and love to your mom. Big hugs.
Mm-hmm.
I love mom. She loves me. So, it's you do whatever you need to do with her. You better take
Be
care
where
of
you need to
mom.
be. You're a good son.
Better take care of mom. I'm gonna come up there
Mm-hmm.
and have a chat with you. But haven't y'all had? I can't remember what it was. There's an area up there in Georgia. I can't remember if it's a state park or a national park. But y'all had one of those clusters of missing people there, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that?
Oh, part of the map for the 411 map.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't
Was it
remember seeing anything from Georgia on there, but
was
it's
it Georgia?
possible.
It seems like it was in that area. I can't remember specifically, but
I mean, it could be. I'd have to go back and look at the map again. I was thinking that there wasn't much in Georgia. Um,
I had a buddy of mine that lived in Georgia, and we were at work one time, and he found out I was into this stuff and everything. And it's one of them deals that we had, as Bigfoot enthusiasts, researchers, whatever you want to call us. It's one of those things that happens to us a lot. When somebody finds out you're into this kind of stuff, and they go, I had this happen. Well, this buddy of mine was living in Georgia for a while, and this took place. The bridge they used to film the jump in Smokey the Bandit.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, he was walking down that road, and something was. He heard something shadowing him in the brush, and he never saw it, but he could hear it breathing and hear it bother the brush every once in a while. He said, but what really bothered him was the bushes that were moving, the branches that were moving were like 8, 9 feet high.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
It's a
like,
little
well,
little unnerving. Little
yeah,
unnerving for sure.
but I know y'all have, it certainly points to, um, there being quite a population over there of Bigfoot.
Yeah, there's White County, Georgia, which is where I do a bit of research. That's like the closest spot to me that's easy to get to. I go up in several areas up there, but there's been a number of White County sightings, and some more recent, like in the last year or so. And they're kind of near a state park. And I've been, whenever I catch wind of it, I usually drive up into the area where the report came out of, and just kind of do a little research. Usually, just kind of survey by day, and if I can, I try to camp in the area, for a full weekend if possible, and just
Yeah.
do a lot of listening at night, and just to see if there's anything that goes boo, you know, in there,
Well,
and or anything that kind of gives you that creepy feeling, and that's usually it's the creep factor. Is
yeah.
when I go out with friends, I'm like, if I don't feel the creep factor, then nothing's around. You know what I'm saying? So usually, if I, that the feeling of being watched, if you feel like you're being watched and you have that creep factor, then you probably are being watched. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, and there is a road where I go four wheeling that we call Bigfoot Road, uh, because when I was with my dad and I was taking him off-roading, and I just happened to go down this road because I wanted to. It was one of those offshoots off the main road that I would go down, and I was tearing down this road, and as I got a little further back in there, a little place opened up, and there were two guys camping in there. And so I slowed down and I waved at them, and then I came to a dead stop and went, no way. It was my friend John that I had been watching with a number of times, like 4 or 5 years ago, and he was in the middle of the woods. And so I jumped out and hugged him, and just we spent a few minutes catching up or whatever. And he had a friend with him there, and then my tire went flat, and they changed my tire for me in the middle of the woods. So that was awesome. But they he shared with me some amazing audio that he got out of there. Just like somebody calling his name, um, and somebody talking, uh, just making these really audible. It was obviously some sort of language. Just amazing recording. And so that will forever be Bigfoot Road, because that's where I found my Bigfoot friend, and he had all these amazing recordings. I can't find anybody brave enough yet to go camping with me on that road that's not a Bigfoot researcher. So
I think I know somebody.
I was
I
gonna say the people that are Bigfoot enthusiasts and do this would be happy to do it. We just haven't been able to sync up our schedules yet to go out and do it. But of my off-roading buddies, I haven't found anybody brave enough to camp
you
back there yet.
well you had one of your Bigfoot buddies come in and say hi a while ago.
Did I?
Yeah, Jessica Jones came in and said hello. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, she would go with me totally. She
Oh
would
yeah.
totally go with
Yeah,
me.
she'd be all over that. Her and Krista
Yeah.
both.
Yes. Yes. And I have actually reached out to both of them. We haven't been able to sync up schedules yet, but we will, and we'll go check out Bigfoot Road.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
tell you what, when y'all three get together, that's something I want. Y'all better get back with us because I want to hear how that goes.
That it will be awesome for sure, for sure. But yeah, that's a really cool place, and it's a road that I frequent, and I go camping on the other end of that mountain quite a bit, but I've never had anything, um, you know, too exciting to report on the upper side of that mountain. But
Look, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think? Because I personally, you know what? I'm going to tell you what I think after you tell me what you
okay.
think. As a woman, do you think that they? Do you think women pretty much automatically have a leg up on researching as far as versus males going out in the field?
Well, we certainly smell better,
Well, I'll give you that.
so
I
there's
will.
that.
That hands down. I
There's
got to give
that.
that line.
When one of the very first expedition I ever went on was a map moneymaker expedition This was long before finding Bigfoot. And I was one of the few females in the group on this expedition. And I was asking a bunch of questions because I was completely excited about the subject and just fascinated with all the different stories that he told, because he had a lot. And I was asking, about what the likelihood it was of me running in to the creature in this particular area of North Georgia, and was there any way to bait them? Was there any way to kind of draw them out? I mean, what do I do? Because I was very new, I didn't know anything. And I said, I don't really want to get too close to one. I just want to be able to see one.
Right.
And so and he just stopped and looked at me deadpan and said, of everybody in this room right now, because I think I was the only woman in the room at that point, he said, everybody in this room, you have the most likelihood of actually seeing one. And I said, well, why is that? And of course, he goes into his theories about that. But basically, between what I learned from him and then what I've since, read in different reports and whatever, it seems like women and children do often have, I won't say they have more sightings than men, but I think there's maybe a little more interaction or a little more willingness of the creature to stay in sight longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Because maybe they don't feel threatened by women and children because we're smaller in stature than men generally.
Right.
And we, as a group, we don't generally walk into the woods with guns hunting.
Right.
And so that would make us a little, as a group, less threatening. So,
but speaking of weapons, I recently, within the last couple of years, I started carrying.
I always carry, but it's hidden, it's concealed. So
and I was worried about, it affecting the amount of activity I was going to have, and the closeness of it and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, if anything, it ramped up after I started carrying. But I think these things sense intentions, just like a dog, just like a horse.
I think so.
I really do.
I think, just like any wild creatures, I think they smell fear, but they also sense intention. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
If you just give them a wide berth and don't look intimidating and don't do anything aggressive, I think they will maintain their distance from you because they're just as afraid, if not more so, of you than you are of them. Speaking of wild animals generally,
right?
So I don't know. I've heard different. Of course, if you've done this for a long time, you hear all kinds of thoughts on the subject of carrying a weapon, right? And so, Bigfoot can smell that gunpowder. You don't need to be carrying a gun. He's not going to hurt you anyway. It's just a big giant teddy bear. Da, 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 da. And so,
well, it's not the Bigfoot I'm worried about.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say it's not any real wildlife that I'm worried about.
No, it's the Littlefoots that I'm worried about.
It's the crazy people in the woods.
The hairless apes.
Yeah. So I this is my point. My point of view on it. I don't care if Bigfoot can smell the gunpowder. I'm carrying a gun. So he can come around or not come around. I will have a gun.
Well, we have such a bad hog problem down here where we're at that, it's that's one of the reasons. And then the like I said earlier, the hinky or sketchy human problem we have, and you get that in a lot of these open parks if you go, even the gated ones where you have to pay to go in or whatever, the big parks, you still get riffraff. Mm-hmm. Things still happen. I used to carry nothing but a Bowie knife, and I felt comfortable with it. Don't get me wrong, but it was really at the behest of others. And really when I started seeing how bad the pig problem was getting in the area that I was going in is, and then when you have tribal police and sheriff's deputies tell you that there's had tiger sightings in the area, well, so it's, I don't know. It just, and like I said, I was afraid it was going to affect it, but if anything, it ramped up, and I don't see any difference. And like I said, I think it's all intention. I really do. Now, as far as women versus men go, I think wholeheartedly that y'all have a leg up on us because of the reasons that you stated, being not viewed as much of a threat, but I also think there's a curiosity level also to it, and it may be a little bit more than curiosity on some, on these critters' minds, but I've also found that if you go out and you hear or you see something, if you don't react to it, act like you didn't even notice anything, they tend to get closer. Because I think they're getting away. I think they think that they're getting away with something.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And I think a lot of time that's the juveniles, out there causing mischief. The hell, they're bored. What else are they going to do? It's going to mess with the humans.
Right. And we've done experiments when I've been with groups where we have isolated all the women to like one campsite that was far away from the other end where all the men were. And we've had mixed results with that. Either nothing happened or we got a little bit of activity where it was just, and there was one time it was just me and another woman that were sitting at a campfire that had died all the way down. Like the light was really, really low. And I have found that when it's extremely low light, they might move in on you a little bit.
Yep.
And because they feel safe to do that because there's no bright light. So, but yeah, she and I were just sitting alone at one campsite, and about 3 campsites down, everybody else was there. And there were a mix of men, women, and children, but just she and I were sitting alone right there. And I could hear movement. We both could hear movement behind us. And we were kind of talking softly to ourselves and we were commenting on it, but we weren't pointing or looking or anything like that. We were just listening. And then there was a stick pop, like a stick that had been stepped on, and it was right behind the tree, which was right behind her chair. And she shot out of that chair and said, "That's too close." And she tore off to the other side, So, and at that point I turned and looked in the direction and I couldn't see anything, what I'm saying? But I did feel like something heavy stepped on that stick.
Yeah.
So, cause it was a large, a large stick top. So it's a branch of considerable thickness, and you couldn't just a regular human step on it and break it like that. So, so something was there, but, and that was a place that had multiple sightings and multiple encounters on different Bigfoot expeditions that I had been on. So
one of the really close encounters that I had, and I don't know what it was. Okay, I'll say that right now. Y'all can draw your own conclusions. And a lot of y'all have heard this before, but on one of our latest outings, I was in my tent and I had my cot shoved over in the corner of my tent. And of course, I got an air mattress on top of it. And about 1:30 in the morning, I woke up and I heard footsteps around on the side of my tent. And I thought it was one of the guys had gotten up to go take a leak. And I'm thinking, why are you going to take a leak by my tent? Go take one by yours,
Right.
And because we were actually, the campsite we were camped in a turnaround, and it was caliche it wasn't even caliche, it was pea gravel, basically is what it was. So it was very, very loud and distinct. I mean, you could tell it was, when I thought it was a person, it was very obviously it was bipedal and it was big. That being said, I don't know what it was. And after the footsteps stopped, I hear right beside my head outside my tent. I mean, it was close. He huffed it, whatever it was, huffed at me twice. And this, of course, at this time, I'm going through my head. I'm trying to figure out what this is, because we got so much crap down there, in as far as wildlife goes.
Right.
You have to you got to go through the whole list. And of course, then my next thought was, crap, my pistol's in my truck. So, like any good researcher, what do? I roll over, I grab my phone, I hit record, and I go back to sleep. But what was cool is about the next hour and a half, there was wood knocks all around the camp that I picked
Yeah.
up on audio. And you could tell that they were different distances away in different directions. It was really cool. So I don't know what that was. Could have been anything. But whatever it was big and walking on 2 feet.
Right.
Now, why it had to bend over and huff at me through my tent, I don't know. you know,
Right.
um, but
I had
it,
a
it
I had a similar experience to that when it was just me and my immediate family, my husband and two kids, and we were camping in Tennessee, and it was kind of a scouting mission because we went to an area where the BFRO had had previous expeditions, and they had stopped having them there because it was quote over squat. And so nothing happened there anymore. And somebody had messaged me and said they're wrong, we were just up there and there's stuff going on up there. And so um, it's a miracle that I even found it, because the directions I was given was, after you get off the freeway, you turn on this road and then you drive until you see this gas station, and then you turn, and when you see this tree that's bent like this, you turn back this side. I mean, so I know I found it because it matched the description exactly. That I have, it was a miracle that I even found it. But where the area was that the expeditions had been held was kind of like a wide open area next to a creek bed, but it was all flooded out because of a recent rain. So we went a little further down the road and on the opposite side of Forest Service Road, just on a little cutout where people had, cleaned out an area and put up a little fire ring. They just literally just driven and thrown up a little tent site. It was right near a creek bed, but the creek bed was all dried up right there. And so we camped there 2 nights with our kids, and the the first night, we've been all up and down the mountain. They were having a fish rodeo down on the river, and we were up on the mountain camping off the side of this road. Um, it was about four o'clock in the afternoon, and we I had a campfire going, and I had a skillet, and I had some bacon and some smoked sausage in it, just warming it up for the kids to eat. And that had been going for a little while, and all of a sudden I hear um, somebody walking on the rocks in the creek bed coming up beside our camp. And I just mentioned to my husband, I said, "Oh, somebody's walking up this way. It might be one of the DNR guys or something, because they're having fish
right.
rodeo down." I totally expected to see a guy in uniform, right? Because it sounded bipedal, somebody walking, sounded like a man walking up the creek bed. And as it got closer to us, um, I kept looking and I didn't see anything. And I kind of gave my husband that look, and I looked at him, and he, did the alpha male thing and just went a little closer in there and went, "Hello," really, really deep voice. And then all of a sudden the walking stopped and it was silent. And so he and I, the gun was on the back of my car. I had the gate down and the gun was just laying there on the back of my car. And so I walked over, and my kids were both laying in hammocks.
Uh-oh. What happened?
Oh, we disappeared. We're back. There. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You froze
Okay.
for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. I was going to say it frozen a second. So I went over and grabbed the gun, and and uh, and unholstered it, and it was kind of ready, but I'm hiding it from my kids because it had been hidden from my kids this whole time. And so I motioned to my husband that I had it, and we both paralleled each other and walked down towards the creek bed and to see if we could see anything. And nothing was there. Nothing was there. And we waited, and I had the food ready. I let the kids eat, and the whole time, they're just chattering away, having a good time. But we're on full alert, just listening, what's going on, and never heard another sound of anything. It was like as if it just vanished. It was weird. And so that night, I wake up to something walking around our tent, really, really heavy, heavy footsteps, but they sound different. It was like a flap, almost like a quadruped, but not really. And I thought, and I was like, is it a bear? Because we were in bear territory. But it sounded off from a bear, and bears usually startle fairly easily.
Right.
And so, of course, when I wake up, my husband wakes up, we're talking back and forth. I think my daughter was sleeping on the other side of my husband, and she was shaking like a leaf, and that woke him up. That's what it was. And so, so he woke me up and said, "There's something walking around the tent." And of course, with all of us kind of hussed and moving and whispering, my son, who's on the other side of me, wakes up, and of course, he's not really awake, but he has to pee. And so I'm like, you're going to stand right here at the entrance of the tent. I'm going to unzip it, and you're just going to pee out the door of the tent. You're not going out there, because I was worried it might be a bear more than anything else, and I didn't want him out there with a bear. So I had the back of his shirt. I fisted my hand in the back of his shirt so that he wouldn't move, because I knew he wasn't fully awake. And I said, just go. And then he finally, but he makes, how kids are like that. They just make so much noise, and you're trying to listen or whatever. And so I finally get him settled back in his sleeping bag. And then I hear that thump, ka-thump, 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 just calmly walking back down towards the riverbed. And I think a bear, with all that racket he was making, would have startled more easily. I don't know. I'm not an expert in bear behavior, but I thought, I don't know. I still am leaning towards bear, but it was just odd. And then it happened again the same way the next night. And we looked for any kind of track, and we could find nothing. There were no tracks. It was hard packed soil all around where we were. And so we looked all over and couldn't find anything. So I'm leaning more towards a bear, but the fact that we heard that bipedal thing earlier in the day, we were convinced it was a man. We were expecting to see an officer, and then just nothing. And that was just so bizarre. So,
and that's, I think that's, I love those kind of things when you don't know, and you got these weird stuff happening. And to me, that's exciting,
Yeah. Like, that's just what I said. I said, I don't know what we heard last night, but I said, I'm leaning towards bear because it didn't sound necessarily bipedal, but it didn't really sound quadrupedal either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was weird. And it was that flap sound. And maybe somebody with feet that were just big and flapping them down. And so I don't know. It was weird. So,
well, when somebody walks extremely heel to toe, that you'll get that sound,
Right. And so that's kind of what it reminded me of. And so I, because I've heard all kind of four-legged animals walk, and there's usually kind of a rhythm to it. Right. And, and I don't think it was a cat, because cats are much more quiet than that. And they're more stealthy. So, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I know that I don't know.
There you go. So, that is the phrase of the evening. Yes. I know that I don't know.
I know that I don't know. But it was exciting. We were excited about it. So we're like, we need to go back there when we don't have the kids, because they were kind of scared by it. But we're this is when they were a lot younger. But they were a little bit frightened, and I said, we should come back when we don't have the kids with us and try it again. And we've never made it back up there to that specific spot again, because we've just been bombarded with other things to do. But that was kind of one of those cool experiences where you're like, something was off, but we don't know what. And
Yep. Well, we've been at this going on 2 hours, and I know that's actually longer than Rob usually runs his show, but that's okay. We had to catch up,
we
dadgummit.
had to talk Bigfoot.
Yeah.
We can talk all night. All we're missing
we're-
is a campfire
yeah, exactly.
and
Man.
conspiracy theories and
Yeah.
aliens. Let's talk about it all.
So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, and go ahead and tell them what you do besides the Bigfoot thing.
Okay. I'm a digital marketer by day. Yay! I have my own company, and it's called Siren Media. And my tagline is increasing your digital footprint. And I have a little footprint. See how I tied that in? Because I learned how to do what I do through all my Bigfoot stuff. So I do a lot of content creation, social media management, email marketing, and web design. So if you own a business and you need help with that kind of stuff, need somebody to help you set up your Google ads, run your Google ads, do your social media, help you beef up your website, just give me a call. You can find my business page on Facebook, which is called Siren, spelled Cyrinn, media, or you can go to my website, which is siren.com. I also have my Bigfoot Chick Adventures page, and you can find me there, or you can just find me on Facebook. I'm Melissa Adair, or you can find me on Instagram at Siren, spelled the normal way, SIREN, BFC1, Bigfoot Chick 1. That's my handle on Instagram. You can find me there.
I love it.
Yay.
Well, Melissa, it was great catching up with you again. I really hope we both make it to Alabama. Be great to see
I'm
you.
looking forward to
And
it.
I can't wait to hang out with your pops again. I
Yeah.
love that guy.
Yeah, he's a funny guy for sure, and he loves hanging out with you guys too. So I'm pretty sure we're headed that way.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will. I'll holler at Anita and tell her, look out, Melissa's coming.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Tell and Rob, if you're watching or you watch this later, I'm sorry that we missed you. I'm very sorry that your mom took a fall. I hope she's healing quickly, and let her know that we're sending all our love and prayers for quick healing. And we'll have to do this again because I didn't get to talk to you.
Well, I don't know about all that. You got to talk to me.
That's true. That's true. I did.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and like I said, I'm really glad we got to catch up. And thank you so much for joining us. And we've got to do this sooner than what, a year.
And yeah, well, I was going to say, and if you plan an expedition, just always invite me. If I can come, I will come. So
I will do that.
Yeah,
I will do that.
I love that, and that goes for anybody that has a group out there that's given an put on insular expedition or just research group. If you need more people, just send me an invite. If I'm free, I will come.
I'll have to get you in touch with Krista and Brandy, because they're up in Missouri, so they do a lot of stuff up there, and they're just getting into the cryptid stuff. They were long time paranormal investigators, and so yeah, y'all hit it off.
Yeah, I'd love it. That'd be great.
But guys, girls, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Don't forget, y'all hit that, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Don't forget the alert bell, because I don't know, YouTube's being YouTube again, but leave a comment after the show. That helps us so much. And share, like Jason says, inflict this on your family and friends, and we'll annoy them just as much, if not more, than we annoy you. We promise. But Melissa, thank you again, and you be safe out there, and
yes, sir. You too.
Good luck.
All right, we'll see you in Alabama.
Oh yeah.
All right.